Welcome back to another episode of No Shame with Shane. I'm your host, Shane Fordham, with all the shameless sports takes. The Eagles are fighting for first seed in the NFC right now at 12-3. And with Jalen Hurts being out, at least for this week, with a concussion against the Cowboys, there's been some speculation as to exactly how the Eagles season will end. And this predicament that we are in honestly couldn't have come at a better time for the Commanders. I mean, the Commanders at 10-5. Now, this is very unlikely, but if the Eagles were to somehow lose both of these last two games against the Cowboys and the Giants, then the Commanders, who are 10-5, could clinch the division if they win out. If they beat the Falcons and the Cowboys. Now, I don't see the Eagles losing both of these games. Like I said, it's very unlikely. But I also don't see the Commanders losing both of their games. I don't see the Commanders losing to the Falcons. I don't see them losing to Dallas, their last game of the season. And that's mainly because of Jayden Daniels. I mean, the Eagles definitely shouldn't lose these next two games, but they have to win. I mean, they have to win. I mean, I don't see the Commanders losing their next two games mainly because of Jayden Daniels. Like, the Eagles, they should be able to beat the Cowboys this week with Kenny Pickett, and then they shouldn't have any trouble with the Giants the week after. But these two games are definitely games that we have to win with the Commanders being this close. The reason why I am somewhat worried is because of Jayden Daniels. I'm worried because Jayden Daniels has shown to be a top 5 quarterback in the NFC, no question. He's top 5 and not 5. The only quarterbacks I have in front of him right now for this season are Goff, Stafford, and Hurts. Those are the only three quarterbacks I have in front of him right now in the NFC. Jayden Daniels is a top 5 quarterback in the NFC with top 3 talent. And that's in regards to the entire NFL. I mean, Jayden Daniels right now, he's on track to finish this season as the best rookie QB of all time. I mean, you think about other great quarterbacks who have had, great rookie seasons, some of the greatest rookie QBs to play the game to date. You think about RG3. RG3 is in that conversation, and Cam Newton is in that conversation. Jayden Daniels, right now, he has more total yards and touchdowns than RG3. And he has more rushing yards with fewer turnovers than Cam Newton. He has a higher QBR percentage and completion percentage than both of them. And he's on the verge of finishing with a better record than both of them as well. Now, I know there are more games in a season now than there were, back then. But the point is that Jayden Daniels has shown to be a winner. And winning is arguably the most important stat of a quarterback. The most important QB stat that exists is wins, is what's in that win column. And Jayden Daniels has shown to be a winner. Looking at his numbers, 3,303 passing yards on the season so far, 22 touchdowns, only 8 interceptions, 737 rushing yards, 6 touchdowns, the 4th best QBR in the entire NFL, a 101.3 passer rating, a 69% completion percentage. Jayden Daniels is putting up historic numbers. The first rookie in NFL history to throw for 5 or more touchdowns while also running for rushing for over 65 yards. Jayden Daniels is putting up historic numbers. That's a guy that you need to be worried about this time at this point in the season. So if somehow, if the Eagles were to slip up, with Jalen Hurts being out with a concussion, for these next 2 weeks and lose both of these games, the Commanders could very well pull the rug out from under our feet and clinch the division. Jayden Daniels is honestly, I'm honestly more scared of Jayden Daniels as an Eagles fan than any other quarterback in the NFC. I mean, just because of the talent that he is shown to have, being able to make plays with his legs, the accuracy that he is shown to have as a rookie, the way he's able to connect with his number one and Terry McLaurin, who is really one of the most underrated receivers in the league, a reinforced offensive line, the backfield that they have. Austin Eckler should be coming back any game now. I'm honestly more scared of Jayden Daniels than any other quarterback in the NFC because of how great he is shown to be this early in his career. And he has the weapons. He not only has the talent to win, he has the weapons on his team to win. I mean, Jared Goff, of course, and the Lions have been unstoppable this season, but they're depleted right now. At least, especially on the defensive side of the ball, losing 17 total players on IR right now. 17 total players on IR right now. They just lost David Montgomery, who's out for the rest of the season. So, a Lions team that is depleted, still a team to worry about. But I'm still more worried about I'm more worried about this Commanders team who is starting to get guys back now that the season is closing. Like I said, they're getting Austin Eckler back any game now, who is valuable in the run and the pass, a dual threat running back. And then they also have Jonathan Allen, one of the better defensive tackles and D linemen in the game, coming back for the end of the season. Who should be back for the playoffs, hasn't been ruled out for the rest of the season. Marshawn Lattimore is getting more comfortable with the defense, even though he had some hamstring issues last game. He did a decent job of guarding, of sticking with AJ Brown. Jeremy Chin has done a good job in the secondary, leading one of the defensive leaders of the league. Quan Martin, another guy who stepped up. Frankie Louvu, guy who's had really a Pro Bowl season this year, looked like a Pro Bowler all season, being everywhere on the field, similar to Zach Bond's role on the Eagles. I'm definitely, in terms of quarterback, I'm definitely more worried about Jayden Daniels than I am any other QB in the NFC. So when it comes to the Eagles, so really the Commanders aren't just in competition with the Eagles for clinching the division. I'm looking at the Commanders as really our number one threat to winning the conference. I mean, I know you have teams like I mentioned the Lions, you have teams like the Packers, you have teams like Minnesota, another 12-3 team, or I believe 12-3, another 12-3 team, but at the same time, if I'm looking at Sam Darnold and Jayden Daniels side by side, I'd be more scared to play Jayden Daniels in the playoffs than I would Sam Darnold. I mean, he's had a great regular season, leading the Vikings to a great season, who's looked like one of the best teams in the entire league on paper. But we don't know what Sam Darnold looks like in the playoffs. I'd rather take my chances with Sam than have to see Jayden Daniels, because Sam Darnold and the Vikings, they're most likely going to finish at the 5th seed, with the Lions, with the line, if the Lions were to clinch the 1st seed, so we don't know what Sam Darnold looks like in the playoffs. I'm not going to assume that Sam Darnold is that same guy as he has been in the regular season in the playoffs, when we've only seen it once this year. We've never seen him play like this before, since college, since his USC days. You look at the Packers, Jordan Love is overhyped. Not to say he doesn't have talent, but at the same time, he's got his touchdown to turnover ratio needs to be something called into question. So you're looking at those top guys in the NFC compared to Jordan Love, Sam Darnold, Jared Goff, who is losing pieces on not only his offense but also on the defensive side of the ball. I'd be more worried about Jayden Daniels. I'd be more worried about Jayden Daniels because of not just because of who he is as a player, but because of how scrappy that the Commanders have proven to be as a team. Now, looking at that game from last week, the Eagles-Commanders game, I 100% stand by the fact that game is a totally different game if Jalen Hurts is healthy. If Jalen Hurts doesn't go out with a concussion, that game is a totally different game. But at the same time, to be able to come back having 5 turnovers in a game, being able to come back in the fourth quarter and seal the deal at the very end of the game to win it, giving increasing your division and seed chances. I mean, can't ignore that. I mean, totally different game with Jalen Hurts healthy on the field. They didn't have an answer for the offense when Jalen Hurts was on the field. Couldn't stop the offense from marching up and down the field. But at the same time, it's rare that a team will commit 5 turnovers in a game and will then end up winning that game. Jayden Daniels locked in. I mean, he has 3 fourth quarter comebacks so far this season and 3 game-winning drives this season. So Jayden Daniels is not only shown to be a winner, he's shown to be a clutch quarterback, keeping up and outplaying some of the best quarterbacks in the league, like Joe Burrow, like that crazy game in Cincinnati. So I'm definitely more worried about Jayden Daniels because of his ability not just to win games, but to also control games, to be able to use the game timing to his advantage. He's one of those guys where he's proven to be one of those guys where you have to worry about not giving him too much time on the clock. You have to worry about him in those crunch time situations. He's really starting to become a sure thing in those 2-minute, 1-minute drill type of situations in game. And there aren't a lot of guys like that in the NFL right now. Maybe 4 guys like that in the NFL right now. Mahomes, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts. You want to put Lamar in there, you can. Jayden Daniels is knocking on that door. I mean, so if I'm looking at Jayden Daniels side by side to the other quarterbacks in the NFC, my number one fear is Jayden Daniels. Jayden Daniels is the last quarterback that I would want to see in round 1. Honestly, that's really a quarterback who I want home field advantage for, is playing guys like that. If I'm the Eagles, another reason why I want home field advantage is in preparation for my matchup against Jayden Daniels, because the way the playoff bracket is right now, the playoffs were to start today, the Eagles and the Commanders would be facing off in round 1 in the wild card round. That's round 1. I would feel a lot better about that matchup if the Eagles have the home field advantage in that matchup, as opposed to having to go to DC, especially with Jalen Hurts kind of being a little banged up, with coming back off of his concussion. Now, granted, this time of year, everybody is fighting something, but we know concussions are no joke. Concussions are on a different level. So, especially with the way the season is shaping up right now, I would feel a lot better about that wild card matchup against the Commanders if it's in Philly as opposed to being in DC. So, definitely something that I had to point out because I really feel like it's really not talked about enough in terms of, granted, the NFC is stacked this year. It is stacked this year. The Vikings overall are a great team, but I don't trust Sam Darnold yet in the playoffs. The Lions have been dominant all season, but their key pieces, not just players, but their key pieces on both sides of the ball have been dropping like flies. So they're depleted. So I would rather play a depleted Lions team on that front than the Commanders. The Packers, not to disrespect them, they have playmakers on both sides of the ball. One of the better secondaries in the league with Xavier McKinney, who's leading the league in interceptions right now. One of the best cornerbacks in the league in Jair Alexander. Two underrated pass rushers in Rashawn Gary and Kenny Clark. Just an overall solid defensive unit on offense. Jordan Love, who even though he's, in my opinion, he's a bit overhyped, he's still one of the better QBs in this league, one of the more talented QBs in this league. He can also extend plays with his legs. He has strong arm. He has a strong arm. He has a deep receiver room with Jaden Reed, Christian Watson, Wilkes, and then to just icing on the cake with Josh Jacobs, how, a top 5 running back in the NFL right now, everything that he brings to the table, the way that he's able to add a new dynamic to that offense, making them more dangerous, a team that can hurt you through the air, on the ground. But at the same time, I would definitely rather play Jordan Love in the playoffs. At least, would rather see Jordan Love in the playoffs than Jayden Daniels right now, who was hot. Jordan Love doesn't touch Jayden Daniels, in my opinion. So it's definitely going to be something that the Eagles are going to have to be careful of. Now, I don't see the Eagles losing both of these games. Like I said, I don't see them losing to the Cowboys with Kenny Pickett, and I definitely don't see them having any issues whatsoever to the Giants. Hopefully, we'll be able to put in the backups in the second half, to rest the starters to get them ready for the playoffs, let them rest up. But it's definitely something that the Eagles can't afford. The Eagles really can't afford, in my opinion, to really lose either one of these games with as close as the Commanders are at our heels right now. So these next 2 weeks, obviously they hold a lot of weight, but I had to let y'all know shamelessly, with no shame, exactly what is going into these next 2 weeks, exactly what is at stake. Because like I said, I would rather have that home field advantage when it comes to playing the Commanders in round 1 than the roles being reversed, the Commanders clinching the division and them having home field advantage, where us having to go to DC for round 1. Jayden Daniels at home. So definitely going to be an interesting 2 weeks of football to watch. But that's all for this edition of No Shame with Shane. If you haven't already, be sure to like, follow, and subscribe to all of our social media platforms. And I will be back later on with more shameless takes.